Hello, everyone. I'm so excited today to be with Edwina from Shakti Creative. It's such an honor and exciting for you to be here because what we're talking about today is something that a lot of kids yoga teachers and other educators who are coming off to do their side hustles is how to work effectively with social media. And Edwina and I spoke last week, and she's had a whole different journey on retail businesses and online businesses, and she's really put all her passions together to help other spiritual, conscious, heart-based businesses into creating effective social media. So thank you so much for being here, Edwina. Why don't we start with you telling us a little bit more about your background? What brought you to the social media arena?
Sure. Thanks, Giselle. Thank you so much for having me. So I've got a bit of an interesting background. I spent my corporate career in retail. So on the shop floor, working in retail, I became a national learning and development manager, which was a job that I loved, created a lot of content, training programs, ran conferences, events, that sort of thing. Had a bit of a shift out of the corporate world to start my own business and traveled Europe and did all of that, for a bit, had a bit of a break, and then came home, went to India for a few months and whatnot, came home and opened a bricks and mortar store with my mum. We had a beautiful little vintage lifestyle store where we sold antique furniture, we sold beautiful jewelry, clothing. That then evolved into an online clothing label, which was a beautiful bohemian clothing label, which was incredible, where I sold beautiful clothes, slow made clothes from India. So block prints, that vintage style Indian gauze dress, and that was really, really fun. And I did that for quite some years and was quite a successful business. But I got to a point with that business where I felt like I was contributing a lot to, like, women would buy 5-6 dresses at one time, and it was getting to that point where it was like I was to either really grow big and start employing people and get a warehouse and that sort of thing. It sort of grew much bigger than my kitchen table and my garage. So I was at that sort of point when the pandemic hit where it's like I either go big, and I really wasn't sure what was going to happen. So I made a pivot then because India basically closed down. I had stock in the middle of the ocean I was waiting on. It was very stressful and it was an unknown time. And I made a bit of a pivot to the wellness because I've always shared wellness as on my online store as well. I sell essential oils and incense and all of those sorts of things. So it was quite, a bit of a lifestyle brand in the end. And I sort of made the pivot and I said, look, I really want to get back into sort of more online where I'm not relying on external, things to run my business. Basically, I wasn't relying on stock coming in and all of that sort of thing. So I made a bit of a pivot. I did my yoga teacher training. I trained in Ayurvedic wellness coaching. I have a beautiful essential oils business as well. And I really dived into that sort of thing. So from creating content for people in person, workshops, training, that sort of thing, to creating beautiful content for my clothing label, and then to wellness and teaching yoga, teaching Ayurveda, and then helping other yoga teachers, other Ayurvedic practitioners, beauty therapists, like a whole range of people that I help now with their social media and their online marketing. So it was just sort of a natural progression. And I had one of my Ayurveda teachers, Katie Rose, she really saw in me this potential. It's like, you create beautiful content online, your social media has a great presence, this is a really beautiful niche for you to, to sort of lead into. So I kind of followed those little breadcrumbs, and I look at it, like it's your dharma sometimes is not what you think it's going to be. And I followed those little breadcrumbs, and that's where I am now with Shakti Creative. So Shakti Creative is all about that beautiful creative energy, that presence online, building websites, doing social media, like really authentically finding within your voice, your voice for social media, and then bringing that out in a beautiful, authentic way. That's what I help people to do. Yeah. So that's in a nutshell.
Yes. And it is so interesting because that's not really what we hear. So, we've got in our community, we have a lot of kids yoga teachers. And like I said, we've got there's a whole niche of people who are teachers like myself who are looking to start their own kids yoga business or other kinds of business. Sort of, exactly what I did. I was a teacher for a long time and then I started this business.
Yeah.
But often for those of us who are educators, we aren't trained in business practices, right? Especially social media, right? And we know that people talk about we have to have a Facebook and Instagram and things like that, right? But what we hear, especially for new businesses, it's overwhelming to know how do we start. There's so much challenge in, what am I publishing on there? I put things on there. I spend so much time. And I try to connect and nobody responds, or there's just a lot of challenges understanding the who, what, where, why. Are you finding that with your clients as well? They're experiencing sort of these they're lost in a rabbit hole kind of situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I find with a lot of my clients is they've kind of got this love-hate relationship with social media. Can be a little bit of a rabbit hole, and we can get stuck in the scroll. We can get stuck in comparing ourselves to what other yoga teachers are doing or what other businesses are doing. And we can really start to get lost in all of that noise, like that chitter-britty, that sort of all going in and around. And it's like, well, where do I stand? So what I talk to my clients about is really anchoring into source and really anchoring into finding out what, like really listening to what source has got for them and saying, okay, what makes me different? Who am I? Who is my business? What is that energetic blueprint of my business? And then how can I translate that through social media? Because social media is great and it's a way to really build our broader community. Like there's still a lot of the in-person stuff that happens as well, but being able to reach a broader community and really thinking about who is that community that I want to reach, and then engaging with them. Like you might only have a couple of hundred people on your Instagram. That's okay, because when you think about the old-fashioned way, if you had a couple of hundred people walking into your store a day, then you'd be overwhelmed. You'd be like, we're busy. But we've got maybe 20 people commenting on a post, and we don't think that that's enough. But when you think about that's 20 potential new students or new clients or new customers. If you had 20 people walk into your store, what would you be doing with those people? You would be engaging with them. You would be chatting to them. You'd be just getting to know them. So using social media in that way, not thinking, okay, I need to not getting caught up in the likes and the follows and all of those sorts of things, but getting more in tune with who is liking my posts, reaching out to new followers in the DMs, actually treating it like a social platform rather than this scary thing. So the best results that I see with my clients are the ones that are really engaged on social media with their followers. So they're copying into the DMs, they're creating polls, they're creating questions, they're doing all these fun things on social media to get engagement and to build that community authentically. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting because on a personal note, right? So I started, over 10 years ago. And now I think about where we are with Facebook. We tried several strategies over the years. And I'll be totally honest, I'm not sure if we're like in a Facebook jail. It's a little bit of like swaha, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, we're like 30,000. My colleagues who all started the same time I did, well over 1 million, hundreds of thousands or whatever. And we just never could grow our page. So there's something I always thought over the years, like, should I start again? Is it just the name because the word yoga's in it? I mean, who knows, right? But sometimes there's a little bit of like, no matter what you do, it just doesn't work, right? And swaha, it is what it is. And sometimes you think about, you just gotta, like you said, connect to source, and you just put out there what you hope is the beautiful thing, and that the right people will receive your message and follow you. So it's not a clear formula, is it? It's not like, here's what you need to do and it'll all be perfect.
No, it's definitely not a clear formula for everybody. It's not the same formula for everybody, but I think sometimes we can get really caught up with creating for a reason, creating our content to sell a program or to sell a dress or whatnot. And we sort of lose the fun in social media and we forget about being social. So it's like we might have this temptation to schedule a heap of posts for the week, throw them all out there and think that that's going to work, but it might not work. You need to be in there engaging with people, chatting to them, building that, because Facebook and Instagram aren't what they used to be. It used to be very different. Now it is all about connection. And even Instagram's CEO has said that himself this year when he put out in the beginning of the year what the focus of Instagram would be. And it's all about community and social and showing people that, you know, like connecting people. So we need to look at that from a business perspective and think, how can we connect with our customers and our clients and our students? So creating that content that really serves those pain points for them, that's really solving those problems, and giving them that sort of value on social media, and giving them an opportunity to comment on your post. You know, drop a heart, drop a this if you agree. Does this resonate? Not necessarily selling something every post. It's more about sell one in every 3 posts would be a call to action to sell something. The rest would be community engagement. So that's sort of a little formula that I follow with my clients on my own Instagram accounts, is sort of thinking, how am I adding value? And then how am I serving my community? And then offering, you know, that up, and then putting call to actions that are a little bit different. So the sort of whatever you're selling at the time, but also encouraging a little bit of fun on your posts as well.
Yeah, I get it. You said so many great things. So if we were to kind of distill this into like 3 top tips, right? And I think the main idea too is having this healthy relationship with social media, right? And so it's a bit of, I was thinking about it. It's sort of like, you know, be like you said, to be in touch with source, to be expressive. So you're talking about you having your voice and creating beautiful content, right? I've seen your Instagram; it's gorgeous. You've got a clear brand, the colors is gorgeous. So there's a piece about being expressive, like we have a voice and we have a say that we want to share with the world, right? But also that engagement you talked about, you know, the community, making sure we're connecting and we're serving our audience, and then also getting results. So it has to be effective. I think about those 3 things being expressive, engaging, and effective. At the end of the day, we have to see results from the time we spend, because what you're describing, you know, building a community, that takes time. So what are sort of your top 3, like, if this is what we want everyone to know coming away from here, 3 top tips?
Well, this is exactly what you said. It's like building community, like using Instagram to build your email list, getting people from Instagram and Facebook over to your email list. So building that community, because you can nurture them a lot more from the email list. So that would be my number 1. It would be not relying on Instagram as a sales platform, but more as a community building platform, social platform.
I love that you said that about the newsletter too, right, Edwina? Because that's so important. Often we forget about that. We get lost in the social media part of it, but really the point is to get them on our list, even if it means you're doing just you know, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly little newsletter. That's another conversation another time, but you've got to have the people. That's where the magic happens.
And that's the big thing as well, you know, like we don't own Instagram. Like our Instagram or our Facebook can be shut down. And I've seen it happen with clients. Like I've seen it happen with colleagues and clients, like all the time it happens. Like one of my colleagues with 50,000 followers on Instagram just got like shut down and could nothing. Luckily she had an email list. So that email list is what we own, and we can really nurture our people and give them that little bit extra there. So yeah, building community, building your email list, creating content that is of value to your followers. So not just you know, here's my product, buy this. It's more about how you can help them, and really giving that little bit of a taste on what they're going to get when they start working with you. And then using your so sorry, I lost my train of thought there. The number 3 would be creating just creating beautiful, cohesive content that when people see you pop up in their feed, they know instantly that it's you. You know, like from the branding, from the colors, from the imagery, and getting used to using, like we're moving away from using too many words and more about the imagery and the feel and the video. Like reels are really great and they get a lot of traction. And you asked me as well, you know, I was thinking about what is one of the pieces of content that I've created for a client or for my own business that's really had a great reach and it's been quite successful. And I wanted to share one with you I did for my retreat business, which was literally me taking a little bit of footage of a candle burning on my table. So I had a little candle and I created a reel with it, and I put a Rumi quote over the top of it, added some nice mantra music to it, and it got some ridiculous, like 600 and something likes on the reel. It was shared. How many times was it shared? And it literally took me 2 seconds to create.
Yeah, I love that.
It was shared over like 37 times, no, yeah, over 40 times it was shared and had over 600 likes. It was viewed nearly 11,000 times. And that was just literally, I don't know if you can see it here on the,
Oh, beautiful. Gorgeous.
just a little bit of music. And that's
Yeah.
what I mean. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be, it has to come from the heart and come from source. And people feel that energy, especially in that sort of when you're building your community, and they love that. So we gained a lot of followers from that reel, which was amazing.
Right. I think that, don't they say, is educate, inspire, entertain, or something like that? There's like the three of them. And for
Yeah.
that, yeah, for that example, right? It's inspiring. You have the inspiring quote. It evoked a feeling, right? So it was inspiring, and it left people with, as they were scrolling through, there was a value there. People probably had a moment like, oh, that's so gorgeous. The
I
music
want my
was,
friends to see this. I want to share
yeah.
this with others.
Right, right. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it doesn't, it's like, surfers, we always talk about that, right? The surfers will surf, 100 waves to get the one. And then it's not like you're going to hit it out of the park every time, right? It's
Yeah.
just, yeah. And I think the thing too is when you have those moments, it goes really well, learn from it and move on, right? And not to ruminate on like, woohoo, like celebrate but move on. I think it's one of those things we just got to keep going. And if you did it again, similarly, it doesn't always work either, right? It's very fickle,
It
right?
can be quite fickle. And I think as well, when you do find something, when you create content and it goes really well on one platform, recreate it on your other platforms. So share it to, share it to your email list.
Right.
If you put a lot of work into an Instagram post, make it work for you. That's another one of my hot tips is
Yes.
in your email list, write a blog post with it. Like I quite often do that. And I always talk to my clients about doing that as well. It's like, this post is amazing. You've just spent like 20 minutes writing the caption, make that into a blog post,
Yes.
Make that into something else. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So building community, creating valuable, gorgeous content. And then thirdly, yes, make that content into the different formats across all of your social and blog posts and wherever else you share content. I love that. So
Yeah.
what's because I feel like, again, this, we've talked about the balance of the feminine, masculine, left brain, right brain, right? So for those of us who are also logicals, because I do believe in creative business practices, absolutely. And then I've also, one of the reasons I really feel like our business has grown in the way it has is because we've also taken a very logical way about it as well. It's balancing those both sides. So do you have kind of like, I remember taking a course from Rachel Miller years and years ago. She was part of our kid blogger network. And she had this, she would have spreadsheets. I mean, that just worked for my brain, right? And so you'd have like how many times a day, and then which ones were popular, and then you'd share them again. Do you have kind of like that go-to formula or routine?
What I use is I use a scheduling app called Later, which I
Okay.
love. Yeah, and it gives really great reporting. So really, you can really drill down onto what hashtags are working for you, what are performing the best. You can drill down into which posts, which reels, which stories that you share. So my formula is in the stories, I sell in stories generally. We use stories to build community and get chats and get things happening. We can put links in there, we can sell, and I find that works quite well. And then we've got our posts, which generally educate. So as we were talking before, like a carousel post that will educate on what the program has to offer, or my top 5 tips to reduce stress, or something like that, and a beautiful carousel post, which people save and share a lot. So there's quite a good lot of interaction in those. And then reels are to entertain and to get new followers, because Instagram pushes the video content out. And that generally you'll find you'll get lots of new followers, and you'll be able to entertain, make your audience laugh, and show a little bit of a personal side, which I love to do on reels as well. and also inspire there with that beautiful candle. Some of my best reels have been like me doing really stupid things and funny things, and the same with my clients. Like, people love that. They're like, oh, you're so funny, I want to work with you because you're hilarious.
Yeah. Love that.
And which is really nice because, because humor and comedy is a part of my brand, my brand. Like, I am, I do like to have fun. So I use Later to then look at each month. So I will generally pull a report monthly for myself and for my clients, and we run through that report and then plan out, depending on what offerings are happening, what other marketing is going on in the business. Then we'll make the plan for the month ahead based on statistics, offers, and other marketing that's happening. So definitely pulling in the creative feminine and then bringing in the masculine as well, and that creates a beautiful balance, because you can't have one without the other, as we were talked last time. You just definitely can't have one without the other. And it feels good to know that you've got those statistics, and you've got that history to sort of pull on, and then that's when you start to see results from Instagram, when you're pulling those two together. But you've got to have all your sort of things happening, your mailing list, your social media, your community building. So all of those things come together.
I love that. So beautifully said.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say is your advice, Edwina, for those kids who are teachers or educators who have these new businesses and they're feeling frustrated or depleted or just sort of irritated with the whole social media? What would you say is your advice?
So my advice would be, don't feel like you need to spend all your time on social media, because that's when we get really burnt out by it. I would recommend, if you're feeling frustrated or burnt out with social media, I would recommend sitting down and just planning week to week. Plan 3 posts for the week. So you might use a scheduling app like Later, which I love because it automatically posts for you. So I would plan just 3, minimum 3. Like, a lot of my clients just do 3 posts a week, and they show up a couple of times in their stories. And that feels good for them because they're not in there all the time. With your posts, it's really great to schedule 10 minutes around your posting time to engage with your community, because that helps to push your posts out. So you're having really targeted, focused time. You've got boundaries in place. Like, I have got a mantra on my wall here, which says, I'll read it out to you. It says, my time on social media is intentional and focused on business building and relationships.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I can send that to you if you can put that in the notes, because that's on my wall right behind where I sit. Otherwise, I get caught in this scroll. So having those really firm boundaries around it, and that's where a scheduling app works really well, because you can sit down and go, right, for the next hour, I'm going to schedule 3 posts, and they're going to be really great. And they're going to be around my offer that I'm selling this week. I'm going to create an inspirational post, and I'm going to create a post just for fun or creativity's sake. And then you're done. And they're really great, and they're done. And then boom, schedule, done. And then you can get on with other things. Does that help?
Oh my gosh, yeah, totally. And I think too is that for those of us at sort of that next stage of growing our business, that I speak to you and I'm thinking, oh, it's just such a joy. Like, I felt sort of bad in a way when I first started hiring social media managers, right? I thought, oh, is that a cop out? But I just couldn't do everything. But listening to you, like, it's your zone of genius. Like, I can't love social media the way you love social media, And so for somebody, when you meet somebody who is part of has that same energy and love for what you're doing and your mission, it is such a joy to work with someone like you. I mean, your clients are so fortunate to have found you, because it's a great relationship, that you can share what they're trying to do, and it gives them time also to get to do the stuff they love to do and they're good at.
And I really love that part. So I love getting to know my clients and sort of getting into their business and into their heads and creating for them. Yeah, it's lots of fun.
I love it. Awesome. So what's next for you? Tell us where we can find you online and kind of like what you're up to.
Yeah, sure. So I'm online on shakticreative.com.au is my website. I'm Shakti Creative _ on Instagram. What's next for me is I am working at the moment, I'm working on a beautiful online course, which is called the Shakti Roadmap, which is designed to help bring people through the creative process, creating their content for social media,
Oh,
creating their
beautiful.
content for their sales pages, their website, whatever that project is that they're working on. We're going to work through that. So that's my next big thing. So stay tuned for that. I'm not sure when I'm going to launch that yet because I'm still working through all of that. You can work with me one-on-one. I offer social media management. I've got a couple of spots open for that at the moment. My business is growing and expanding. I've just employed someone to help me with some of the extra work as well, which is really exciting. So we're becoming a little agency. I've got, lots of opportunities like you'll see on my website. I love building sales pages for people as well, because that feels a little bit, that's lots of fun. Websites and design. You can work with me one-to-one mentoring. I've got a lot of clients that do that every few months. We get together and I just sort of work with them one-to-one mentoring, and then they go off and create their plans and that sort of thing. So there's a few different ways I can do the done for you type of work, or we can do the one-on-one coaching and mentoring as well.
Oh, yeah. And for those listeners in our community, a lot of our listeners are here in the United States or in North America. Edwina and I are speaking. I'm in Boston and it's 7 p.m. and Edwina, I think it's 9 o'clock the next day outside of Sydney. So don't worry about, even though Edwina's in Australia, you can absolutely work out the time differences, and it's absolutely doable. So.
I've got
and there's a lot of it an email as well. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I've got clients from all over the world. I've got a lady in Germany, one in France, one in Bali. I've got them all over the place.
Yeah. I love it. Beautiful. Oh, thank you so much, Weena. I really so appreciate you taking the time. It's a joy to be with you again. Thank you, my dear.
Thanks so much, Giselle. Such a pleasure.
Thank you.